Hello and welcome. I am your host of What Are You Reading? What Are You Writing? Author Karen Osborne. I have 5 novels out. The latest is Justice for Emerson. I am so glad that you're here. This is a space for readers and writers to come together and talk about books. So, it's like Freaky Friday. For years and years, 8 years, I would go on Google and type my name and in popped this lovely lady, her Wikipedia page, her
Hi.
books. So I want you all to meet Karen Osborne.
Hello, I'm Karen
So
Osborne. I'm delighted to speak with Karen Osborne.
we met at besides always meeting on Google, being on Google, we met at a book talk. And Karen walked in and she said, "Hey, Karen A." And it was just it was just a great meeting. And I'm so delighted that you're here with us today, Karen. And Karen is, first of all, she's an award-winning news and opinion writer. She's worked for in several cities, 3 cities, I think, writing, being a reporter and opinion pieces. She's a prolific short story writer, and she's going to tell you how you can get on her website. You can see all of her short stories. And she has 2 novels out. That speculative fiction,
Mhm.
that's the right word, right? That's the right term, which you're going to explain to everybody.
Sure.
Um, yes. So let's just dive in. This is like super cool. So Karen, could you just define for everybody 2 things? What is, oh, that's the part I forgot to mention. She also is a visual storyteller. So I want to understand what visual storytelling is. Is that just a fancy way to say a filmmaker? And I want to find out what speculative fiction is. So tell us.
Yeah, sure. I am a filmmaker that hasn't worked in the film industry. So it's just been with me and the camera for a very long time. So I've worked for newspapers, I've worked for corporations, I have made wedding videos. So I just basically, it's me and a camera and some lighting equipment and the story, whatever that story is. And I really love it. It's a lot of fun, almost as fun as writing. And and it's actually helped me a lot in my writing because it forces you to pay attention to details in the environment and in what people do and how they look and how they talk that has really affected the way I've written. And that yeah, so I
That makes
do like
perfect
it. I would
sense.
love to work for a real movie someday, but also I don't want to give up the creative control that being on my own
Mm.
has given me. So I've done like everything from um like corporate like talks to I did a Klingon wedding once. It was amazing. Um yeah, and I've worked for newspapers, made a whole bunch of promo videos. It's just a lot of fun and you get to meet a whole bunch of new people and I mean I highly recommend it. It's really great if you like stress.
Yeah. Also, you bring up a really excellent point because watching movies also helps. I find watching movies help me with details in my writing, helps me with imaging, writings that people can see. Like if this was on film, what would it look like? And then putting that on words. So yeah, that makes so much sense to me that one would really support the other. And
Yeah,
so you
one of my problems with writing when I first started writing was everything was like a little white box, you know. I would have some dialogue, but you wouldn't know where anybody was. Um so it helped me quite a bit.
Yeah, because the kind of writing you do requires world building, doesn't it?
It does. And that's
Yeah. So,
speculative fiction, right?
yes. So tell us what speculative fiction is, and then we can talk a little bit about world building.
Sure. It's the it's the literature of what if. And it's a really broad sort of thing that goes from like, what if Napoleon won Waterloo? What if butterflies were carnivorous? What if, we all made um, this amazing society and made sure nobody went hungry, what would the implications of that would be. And it's really, really, so it can be science fiction, it can be romance, it can be anything you want, but the question at the center is what if. And that really, really makes me so happy. I love to figure out, like, I love to just go off on tangents and be like, okay, so what if Elon actually did get his people onto Mars? What would that sort of look like? And that's the memory war, which we'll talk about in a minute.
Yes, yes. Okay, I love that. What if? Yeah. And so let's dive into. Do you have your books handy?
I do not, unfortunately. I'm always forgetting to do stuff like that. I left without the books, and this is one of the things that's about podcasts. I always forget something. So today it's the books, but they are beautiful. They're on my
They
website. I'll
are.
tell you
They're
about what
really
my website later.
gorgeous, gorgeous covers.
Mhm.
And when we promote the this episode, when we air this episode, I will make sure that your beautiful book covers are seen. So not to worry. So
Thank
tell
you.
us the premise of the Memory Wars.
So I've always been fascinated with aliens. Like, I mean, not, aliens. Like, I I watched a lot of Star Trek as a kid, and I was always like, these bumpy noses aren't doing it for me. I want to know what would happen if I would talk to like a real alien. Could we even talk to someone that isn't even carbon based? So I spent a lot of years thinking about what that would be, and it ended up being the aliens in the book. And then it was kind of like, what story could I tell with them? And at the time, I was doing a lot of research into early colonization and colonial things, and the the East India companies and what they really did to advance empire and colonialism, and how they really ruined everything for everyone. And I was like, okay, there's something there, because Elon was also talking about about going to Mars and what
Mhm.
happens when you go to Mars with a company. I bet it's going to be a lot like what happened when you got on that ship to Jamestown. You're going to pay for it,
Mm,
and it's not going to be pretty. So
mm,
I went from there. I had a character in mind for a very long time, and generally my stories will like move around in like really fancy perspectives until they just all come together in one massive ball and become a story. And that's what happened here. It was really a lot of fun.
yeah. And so the world you built, like I've interviewed a lot of gamers who become writers because they have to invent a world and then they find that writing about it is pretty easy because they've already done all the hard work of creating the world. How
Yeah.
did you go about in your world building? What's your process?
I am a little different than most in that I don't spend a lot of time dealing with it beforehand. I will kind of just start writing and seeing what questions pop up. So this book took about, I want to say, 4 years to write, and the very first draft of it was just basically an exploration world building draft. I knew what the aliens looked like. I knew what they were like. I knew that the companies were going to be capitalist hellscapes. And I knew, and we know from what we're going through now that, what that's pretty much going to look like. But everything else, I would ask questions. I would be like, okay, what about this? And what about this? And how does that work out? So I kind of worked it out through the writing, went back and started over. I wouldn't like recommend it, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah. So we haven't told the audience what the names of, we said the Memory Wars, but that's the series. but tell them the name of the two books.
Sure, it's a duology. And the first one is Architects of Memory, and the second one is Engines of Oblivion. And Architects of Memory is kind of a nod to the aliens in that, and also to the stories we tell ourselves about how our lives are and how our countries are and our societies, because it's questions about who builds reality and um who builds the memories for you and for your society, because memory is like faulty. It doesn't always
Mhm.
you don't always remember things the same way, and your mind will actually invent memories if it needs to explain something. It'll just invent things. My mom and I have a long-standing story where there was a just go with it. There was a massive tarantula on the wall um, while we were traveling in the jungle, and like I said she threw the shoe at it, and she says I threw the shoe at it. Now I was 13, so I probably threw the shoe, but we'll never know who's right. We both tell that story a different way, and like it's just fascinating to me. So all of that went into the book.
Yeah, wow. That sounds very exciting and cool and fun. Writing should be fun. We should have a wonderful time
Oh yeah,
writing our
if
stories.
if we
I
don't,
know.
why? I mean, like there's so much trouble in writing sometimes, and in the business of writing, that if we're not having fun, it's
Yes.
almost not worth it. Well,
Yes,
it
it's
is. It's worth
true.
it, but it's
There's a lot to the after you get the words down. There's a whole lot that
oh
has
yeah,
to happen.
definitely.
I was very intrigued when I was reading about your books. And they're in my to be read file, and I will write a reviews. But I was very intrigued that you had two different protagonists, kind of as the main character in the two different books, Ash and Natalie. And uh, it was kind of it's a sequel, but not. Did everybody miss Ash after she disappeared, or um,
Yes,
tell us?
yes,
Yeah.
everybody missed Ash.
So tell us about
Oh
these
my
two
God.
amazing women. Tell us about these women.
So Ash is a survivor. She's kind of like you and me. If we've gone through kind of the things she's went through. She has um I kind of imagine her as someone who has crossed a river in search of a better life,
Hmm.
and has had some experiences that aren't always um, the best. She's lost who she thought was the love of her life in a mining accident that was the company's fault. Um, she's had some trauma, and she's about to be thrust into first contact with a new alien race, and also the thing they brought with them, which could change everything, right? So she is a very ordinary person that has to deal with all this extraordinary stuff, which is my favorite thing to do. I
Me
won't ever
too.
write a super person or
Yeah.
anything, because they're just not interesting enough. No, I want the little guy to fight the you know you know
Yes.
whatever this is. I want to fight, right? um and Natalie first existed. So the second book was originally Ash, but I couldn't really find a story for them for reasons I can't honestly tell you, because it's a spoiler. You'll just have to find
Mhm.
out for yourself. But everyone absolutely wanted to just take me to the cleaners over the ending, which I'm very happy about. Whenever people get mad at me about endings, I'm like, I did what I came here to do, right? I know,
That
don't
means
you
they
love
were
that when
so
you're just like, yes.
invested. They were so invested. That's what's so great about people getting
Yeah.
upset about your endings,
Oh my
because they're
God.
so invested in the characters. They're so invested in the story. Yeah. So, but
Yeah,
Alas,
I
you
don't
have
I
to
don't
come up
even
with
like I
somebody
don't read a
else.
lot of my reviews. I think it's like not great to do so. It kind of hurts it hurts your perspective of your writing and what you do, but I have read some, and even the ones that are just like this book is nonsense. We're so passionate about this book is nonsense, and I'm like that's it. I'm there. Thank you very much for because they engaged with it, and it's not for everyone, right? Like not everyone is going to like every book, especially in speculative fiction, because it's such a wide ranging thing with lots of things. But Natalie was originally going to be a side character, and she was supposed to be snarky and kind of be a foil to Ash. And um, I was probably supposed to die at the end, but she was just so interesting. I
Mhm.
wanted to see because she was a true believer right up until the end. I'm just going to spoil a little bit. She is a true believer in the corporate system. She's got her life planned out for her. She knows exactly what she's going to do and where she's going to go, um, until she doesn't anymore. And so the second book, I just couldn't put that idea down, um,
Mm.
especially in a lot of what we're experiencing today, no matter who you are or what you believe in. It's like, how do you, and it was something I was going through myself a little bit. We won't get into it, but like I had some things in my life that I was like, wow, I don't know if that's true anymore. And that was true
Mm.
for all my life. So I got to get in there and deal with that like nitty gritty of what do you do? And of course, there's aliens. So that's speculative fiction, right? What do you do when you don't believe anymore in what you believe in? And also, there are aliens.
That's the other wonderful thing about books. Your imagination takes you all kinds of places, but in the end, we can all relate to the stories and we can relate to the people because even though I'm in a different world and even though, different things are going on, we're all human. And when we write
Mhm.
about, I love writing about flawed, strong women,
Oh, me
women that
too.
have to become stronger, people that have to deal and dig deep and do things they thought weren't cut out to do. So that sounds
Yeah.
what Ash and Natalie both sound wonderful. And I totally get about not reading your reviews, but your reviews are very, very good because I read your
Oh,
reviews.
thank you. Yeah,
They're very good.
it's a thing. It's a thing. I try not to. I spent a lot of time in my past being one of those people that's like, oh, I could never write. I could never do that. I'm not good enough. I'm not important enough. And like, if you read your reviews, it might put you right back there. So that's what I think, at
Yes.
least.
Yeah, yeah. I used to, for a long, big, big part of my career, and now just tiny, tiny, I did a lot of workshops. And before electronic evaluations were out, they would actually do paper evaluations at the end of the workshop. And I would wait till everybody was gone, like, bye. And I'd tear through and look, and I'd always find the one person that was unhappy with me.
Yeah.
And then I would obsess about, and
Yes.
as a writer, we somebody doesn't like your book, right? Because every
Yeah.
book isn't for everybody, and I just can't get myself. I've matured.
I mean, we all go through that, right? We all end up in that state where we're just like, where we're like, I mean, that's why social media works because our brains go, oh, look at this negative thing. I'm going to obsess over it. That's how
That's what
negative,
we do.
that's what we
That's
do.
that's what we do. I don't do that anymore, but that's what I did.
It's okay if you still do
So,
it a little bit.
so this is what are you reading? What are you
Mm-hmm.
writing?
I have a
And
whole
I'm
list.
it's so interested, like who influenced you? Was there a writer or a book that, because you're also a short story writer,
Mm-hmm.
you're a visual storyteller, was there somebody or some book that had a big impact on your approach?
When I was a kid, I read so many books that like I can't even remember them all. So I was trying to look back into like my teenage years and go, what was that book? That really, that really got me. But it was actually the first name I thought of was actually when I was an adult already. And I had graduated college and I picked up this cool looking book by an author named Elizabeth Bear. And Elizabeth Bear at that time was writing science fiction. I'm not going to remember the name of the book, but it was the Jenny Casey series, and it is unfortunately out of print.
Mm.
But the thing is, she Bear had a blog on LiveJournal, right? Way back when. We're talking like
Wow.
2002.
Yeah.
And she would blog about, just being a normal human being. And she was like the first author. I was like, wait a minute. She did it. She has a
Mm.
full-time job.
Mm.
And like hearing her talk about writing and talk about stuff on there was like, I mean, it was basically life changing, and it helps that her books are all really really amazing. She's written like everything. She's got science fiction, she's got some fantasy, she's got like a werewolf novel. Her
Mm.
most recent one is her character Karen Memory. And Karen is like a late 1800s uh, cowgirl. I mean,
Mm.
and the best thing about Elizabeth Bear is that she doesn't stop. Like, she doesn't say, I'm done. She just keeps on writing, and she keeps on writing the next thing that she wants to write. And, and I find that very inspiring. I found that inspiring for 20 years. And I hope she doesn't see this because anyway, yeah. So if you're looking for some really good novels from a person that has really done the work, you're going to look for Elizabeth Bear.
That
Also,
sounds
there's a
wonderful.
really cool novella out by called Haunt Sweet Home by Sarah Pinsker.
Mm.
Oh no, that's for later. That's the next
No,
question.
that's
Oh
the next
yeah,
question. So
yeah,
keep
I'm going
going.
straight into what I'm reading. Oh my god, I love
Roll
this. I
with
love
it.
reading.
Roll with it.
So Haunt Sweet Home by Sarah Pinsker. It's a reality show, but haunted. And I forget what it's out from, but it is a novella, so you can read it in like an afternoon. And Sarah is another one of those writers that just keeps going, and I admire that. And she's also the nicest person in the world. Um, there's a really interesting book if you're into like monster tales, but like skewed. There's a book by John Wiswell, and um, John has a unique perspective, and I wish I could say more, but a unique perspective on the monster genre. The monster is the protagonist, and it's
Mm.
definitely a monster, but it's not always what you think it is. Oh
Mm. I like
God.
characters like that.
Yeah, it's really really interesting. I find it hard to describe all of this stuff because you just have to read it. Like it's literally never been done before, and so yeah, go out and get it.
Yeah.
There's a book called The River Has Roots by Amal El Mukhtar, um, and it is beautiful. Amal is a poet, and she writes these amazing books that are, you may have heard it from How to Win the Time War that she wrote with
Mhm.
Max Gladstone that went viral a couple of years ago. But it's poetry in prose, and it's a beautiful book about two
Mm.
sisters. It's from a murder ballad, and it's like you are hearing this old ancient poem but made completely new in new language, but also you're connecting with that like very ancient sort of thing. um Also, I
Those are-
just finished. Oh, sorry,
Mhm.
I'm
No, go
sorry, I'm
ahead.
rolling on.
All right, one more, one more.
One more. Also, I just finished the fifth season by N.K. Jemisin. It's a little older out, but it's a trilogy. It won all three um, Nebula Awards in a row when it came out, and it's about climate change. I remember reading it the first time and not being able to read it because it was so real, and um it was just so but everyone should read it. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's everyone should read it.
Mhm.
right? Because boy, this is where we are.
Yep,
This is
it's where we are.
what's happening here. Well,
Hmm.
I thank you, Karen, so much. I thank you for being a guest. I'm so glad you're here. The audience is totally intrigued. They already love you. So, in addition to you being able to find all of her books on Amazon, in Barnes and Noble, in your independent bookstore, in your library. If you don't see it, you know what to do. Go up and ask for it. Buy them, borrow them, read them, write reviews. But in addition to that, how can people be in touch with you? How can they find out more about you? Can they, tell us about your website and your social media?
Yeah, sure. I have a website at karenosborne.com. I have to update it. But there's a little bit there. I I use Blue Sky a lot these days because that
Mm.
seems to be where the writers are, and I love having writing discussions. So you can find me at Karen Osborne dot bsky.com there. I'm also on Instagram at Karenthology, sort of like Karen plus anthology. Um, and my agent says I have to post more on that. So I'm probably going to post more on that. We'll see.
Yes. And tell your agent to help you to update your website too.
Yeah, that's a whole thing with authors. Like we're like, read my book, and then we don't ever update our websites, right? It's a thing. It happens to all of us.
Yes, it does. Thank you, everybody. I hope you enjoyed meeting Karen A. Osborne, but she's just Karen Osborne. That's who she is out there. That's why my E had to show up because
Oh
because
no.
everybody confused me with Karen. I'm so glad that you've met her. I know you're intrigued. And please, when you are in touch with her, please tell her that you met her on What Are You Reading? What Are You Writing? Until next week, everybody, have a great, great week. Bye.
Bye.